Hi everyone! Let's talk about my TBR for the month of December. I don't know why, but actually putting together this TBR for this month has like stressed me out. And normally it doesn't. Even when I put like 20 books on the TBR, it never actually stresses me out because I'm in control. But I don't know, something about doing a TBR for December when it's like, this is the last month of the year. If you don't read these books, then you have to read them next year. You know, like something about it is stressing me out. So I'm going to try and chill out a little bit, but I want to talk you through all the books that I'm trying to read in the month of December. So let's start off with the first category of books, which is book clubs and buddy reads. So firstly, the book club book, which is the Reading Around the World book club that I host, by the way. Join us on Fable. It's such a fun time. Last month we did Cuba and we did Havana Year Zero. And this month we chose North Korea. So the book that we're doing is The Accusation by Bandi. This sounds like it's going to be a really interesting book. It's basically short stories, but the author of this book, Bandi, this is a pen name because the author actually still lives in North Korea. If you don't know, the Reading Around the World book club, basically we spin a wheel 3 times and then we hold a poll to choose between the 3 countries that we span, and then we decide the book based on that country. So everyone voted for North Korea. So we are a democracy and we said we were going to do North Korea, and then this is the book that we chose. It was actually kind of difficult to find fiction that had come out from North Korea. There's a lot more non-fiction available, but I do try and do fiction for the book club because I find it easier to compare against different books. It would be much harder to do a ranking of my favourite books if some of them were non-fiction and some of them were fiction. So this is a collection of short stories, and it's also quite different for North Korea because this is a book all about ordinary people's lives and the ordinary ups and downs and tragedies that they go through. So very excited to read this. Some people in the book club have already started it and they say that it's amazing. So I'm very excited. And also join us on Fable if you would like to join the book club. Not too late to join for this month. This book is pretty easy to find. I found this in a charity shop for like £2, and it's also on Kindle and on everyone's libraries. So it should be easy to find if you want to join us. But also if you want to join for next month, I'll be doing another wheel spin over on TikTok where we'll be choosing the country in the book for January, so you can join for that too. It's very, very fun. And then next up, I am doing 2 different buddy reads, one with my friend Alice, who is famous on this channel for showing up in almost every single video, so hi Alice. This book is Nemesis that we are doing. We always do Agatha Christie's together, and it's been a couple of months since we've done one, so this is going to be so fun to do over Christmas. I love reading Agatha Christie over Christmas. That's originally how I started reading them, so we always do these as buddy reads, and we do it on Storygraph, where we basically try and collect all the clues and we make a big guess at the end as much as we can before the actual final mystery is revealed, and we have so much fun doing it. So reading this with Alice. This I think is still a Miss Marple. Yeah, it's a Miss Marple one. We are coming to the end of Miss Marples though, so might have to move over to do Poirot or some of her other mystery stories because we're going to run out. And then next up, I'm doing another buddy read with a friend over on TikTok, and she actually kindly sent me this book from my Amazon wishlist, which is the cutest thing ever because also I've never been sent a book from my Amazon wishlist before. This is the first one ever. So we are doing it as a buddy read for December, and it is The Will of the Many. This is so exciting. It's by James Islington. So I am reading this with Michelle from TikTok, and she is Michelle Reads Sometimes on TikTok if you do want to go and follow her. But yeah, we are both going to read this together. It's going to be so much fun. I've heard amazing things from people who I have really similar taste to, and also it's described as similar to Brandon Sanderson's type writing. On the back, someone has blurbed it as that, so that's very exciting. This is like I said, a Roman-inspired fantasy series, the first one in a new series, and I think that the magic system kind of revolves around your will, which is like your energy and your vitality and your ambition, and it can also be given to other people. So in this book, you are following an orphan boy who is kind of undercover and attending this prestigious military school, I think, and he's trying to basically find out secrets about this quite corrupt government. And it just sounds really fun, so I cannot wait to read this one. It's a thick one, it's big, but I'm very excited for it. So that is The Will of the Many. And then next up, I want to go through the books that I have already started that I was reading last month that I have not finished yet. And they are Mort, which is a Discworld book. This is the first in the kind of death series of books, and I'm very excited because I love when death shows up in the other Discworld books. I'm already about 50% through this one. I've almost finished it, so probably going to finish it today. But the next one I'm only about 30 pages through, and it is The Jasmine Throne, and I have had this on my list to read like for 2 years, but at least for the last year. It's on my 23 to read before 2023. So I need to read it, and I started it just at the end of last month, and I'm already loving the vibes. I'm really, really enjoying the setting of this one and the writing already. This is an Indian inspired sapphic high fantasy kind of enemies to lovers story. You're following a princess who has been basically imprisoned, and also her maidservant, but they are like the opposite sides of this political war, and I don't know quite the politics of what's going on yet, but I'm really loving it already. I love the writing and I'm really engaged, so this is going to be such a fun one, and I hope that I continue to love it. And lastly, the last one that I have already started reading, this is actually really funny because I started reading this on Kindle just like 2 days ago, and then my friend, who is so kindly making me a book advent calendar for Christmas, and it's just the sweetest thing in the entire world, but I opened the first book yesterday and it was the book that I've been reading. This is The Witchwood Knot by Olivia Atwater, and I'm so glad to have a physical copy of this now because I was already just a few chapters into it on Kindle and I was loving it. And so this is the author of the Half a Soul, and she also does a few others in that series, and they are Regency inspired cozy fantasy stories, and they are really, really fun. I've only read Half a Soul, but it was one of my favourite reads when I did read it, and this one is The Witchwood Knot. So this is, I think, set in the same world, but while the other ones like Half a Soul are Regency era, this one is Victorian era. I think it's the same magic and the same kind of setup in the world. So basically all I know about this book so far is what's happened. So we have our main character who has turned up at this old scary manor house, and she has been hired as a governess, and basically fae are kind of haunting the manor house. Some very creepy stuff is going on, like people don't last long in this house, and she's trying to figure it out and help the woman who still lives there. So that's all I know so far. I'm very excited to read it. I really like this writer. She does the cozy tone really well, but she always has really funny and witty kind of characters as well. So this is fun, and I am currently still reading this. Okay, and then usually I also like to put whatever books I didn't manage to finish on my last month's TBR onto the next month, and there is one book that I did not manage to get to at all, which was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And if you've seen some of my videos before, that you know that I really like Becky Chambers' monk and robot duology, and so I'm very, very excited to get to this one. I think that this is also the start of a series, the Wayfarer series. I think it's been described as quite a joyful and like cozy sci-fi story, all about basically the crew of a spaceship called the Wayfarer. And that's all I basically know about it, but it's also all I want to know about it, because I think that this is going to be such a fun one, and I think potentially a new favourite of mine, because lots of people who have read Becky Chambers say they really, really enjoyed this one a lot. So I cannot wait to get to it. Okay, and then as I already mentioned, I did make a list in January of this year, which was 23 books I want to read in 2023. And so we still have a few books left on that list. And so I need to get to them. One of them I have physically and the other ones I don't, but I'll tell you about the one that I have physically first. Basically, I made it my mission to try and finish the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, and to do that I needed to reread the first 2 books in the series as well, which I did manage to do earlier this year, but it means that I still have not read the third and final book, which is The Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. This is the third and final book in the Farseer trilogy. And can we also just take a moment to appreciate this cover, because I found this in a charity shop and it is absolutely stunning, and I just absolutely adore this old school, I think it's a mass market paperback, a US mass market paperback, because it's got those dimensions. I love the cover and I love the green. And then I looked up how to find these editions for book 1 and 2 as well, and they were like £60 each. They were ridiculously expensive, and I was so upset because I managed to find this one for like £2, and now I don't have a matching set because I have the other ones. I'll just show you actually, hold on. These are the other editions. These are like the normal editions that you can still find most places, which I do still really like. I like these editions. I think they do look actually really cool. These are the 2 that I've read, so The Assassin's Apprentice and The Royal Assassin, and I still really like these. I like the vibe, but they don't really fit. But now I don't really have a matching set. Like, they're not even remotely similar in terms of dimensions or anything about how they look, and I don't think I'll be able to get a matching set because the other 2, I'm not going to spend 60 quid each on those books. So that's kind of annoying, but also, yeah, I do still love this book and I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm slightly intimidated. It's a real thick, chunky book with tiny writing. But I'm very excited to finally finish this series and see what I think, because I've had a lot of people say that the last book is the best one in the series, and while I enjoyed the series as a whole, it's not been one of my favourite series, which I was kind of surprised about, because from other people who also love this series, like, I think that we normally have quite similar taste, and I really enjoyed it, but it's not been one of my favorites. Like, it's not been one that like has really hit me hard, like in the heart, and I wouldn't say it's going to be an all-time favorite, but I'm very curious to see how this series ends. And then next up we have a classic book. I feel like I have not read a classic in a while. I used to try and read a classic like once a month, and the classic that has been on my 23 books to read before the end of 2023 list is Slaughterhouse-5, and I've had this book on my general TBR, like on my Goodreads, for maybe 10 years. Like, it's one of the longest books on there, which is why I put it on the list to read this year, because for some reason I just have never read it. I also have heard like that it's not that great, but I feel like just at this point I have to read it. It's been on my TBR for so long. I need to know how I feel about it. I need to just like read it and get it off my TBR, you know? So I am going to read that at some point this month, probably, hopefully. And then next up, I have also been trying to get back into finishing, finally, the Wheel of Time series. So I finally read the Wheel of Time number 9 a couple of months ago, and I was really proud of myself because I took like a 2-year break and I eventually finally did get back into it. And it really wasn't as bad as I remembered as well. I was kind of bracing myself for the kind of alleged slog, which is what happens in the middle of this series of books. So if you're not familiar, this is like a 14-book long series by Robert Jordan, and it is one of those classic, traditional kind of long fantasy book series. And for so many people, it is their absolute favourite, all-time, the best, the greatest ever series ever. And so it's just one of those kind of foundational fantasy series that I really want to read, and I want to know what they're like and have my own opinion on. And it has been very mixed results so far. The first few I really enjoyed, especially even actually just the first 1 and 2 and 3. I really enjoyed them as a series. And then I had a few issues with the plot and with the pacing, and it's nothing that no one has never said before. I think a lot of people who are used to more modern fantasy feel this about this older series. My main issue is just really with the pacing, and also kind of quite a lot of the characterization, especially with how some of the women are written, and not in the usual way that you'd think about how the women are written, because that's not really it. It's just that they are just the most annoying characters that's probably ever been written in the history of the universe. But anyway, I'll maybe do a whole actual video on the Wheel of Time and go through kind of my thoughts, if anyone is interested in that. But basically, all of that to say, I am reading the Wheel of Time number 10 this month. At the beginning of the year, I told myself I would read 3 of them this year, and that's not going to happen because I'm not going to read 2 of them this month, but I am going to at least read 1 more. So number 10 is The Crossroads of Twilight, and I want to keep pushing to get to the end because I've heard the ending is also amazing, and I'm almost through kind of the slog books now, which I think go up until book 10 maybe, or people say that it's different things, but it's basically the few books that are kind of in the middle of the series when the pacing slows to an absolute crawl, and that is definitely something I've experienced. But anyway, I'm going to read book number 10 of The Wheel of Time in the month of December. And speaking of series that I started and then just really want to finish, which is kind of a theme of this month, is I really want to finish off Percy Jackson. I read the first 3 of these, I think last year, and then just never finished the 4th one. So I want to read The Battle of the Labyrinth because I never finished this series. And I really enjoyed the first 3 of the Percy Jacksons. I don't have that nostalgia factor that obviously a lot of people do associate with this series because I never read them as a young person or a child or a teen or anything. And so I don't have that like special like emotional connection to these stories, but they are a good fun time. And I just want to know what happens to Percy and his friends. So yeah, I'm going to read the 4th and final book of the first Percy Jackson book series. I actually have no idea how many Percy Jackson book series currently exist and if he's still writing them. I think he probably is, but no promises that I'm going to actually continue reading on with any of the other Percy Jacksons. I'm just going to commit to finishing the first series that I've started. And finally, for the 23 books I want to read before 2023 section of this video, I also want to carry on with the Fortuna Sworn series because I read the first one and I really liked it, and then I just did not carry on reading it. So I need to read the second book in this series to see if I really like the series or not. So Fortuna Sworn is basically a romantic fantasy story, and basically you're following Fortuna, who is a nightmare, so she can kind of give people their worst visions and worst nightmares. And basically at the beginning of the first book, her brother is missing. She has to kind of make a deal with a Fae, Seelie or Unseelie king and go into the depths of the Seelie court and basically try and find her brother. And it was very fun. I really like the characters, I like the dynamics, and I really enjoyed the plot of the first book. And then I just never carried on. So I absolutely have to read the second book in this series this month. And then next up, I want to read a book for my Reading Around the World challenge. So I always try and read at least a few of these in the month, and I am quite severely behind in terms of that challenge. So I want to put another book on the TBR for this month, and I'm choosing Potiki, which is a New Zealand book, and I think that this book is all about this small island community that are being threatened by tourism. And yeah, I'm really excited about this one. It's from a Maori author and focusing on this Maori community, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's got really good reviews. It's also not too long, so I feel like it'll be a nice kind of pace changer from all of these fantasy books that I'm reading this month. And then the next two books are just two books that I feel like I really need to get to. One of which is Days and Days and Days by Tone Shunnesson, which is an arc that I received like back in the summer maybe, or at least a few months ago, and I never got around to reading it, and I feel really bad, so I really want to read this. And I also think that this is going to be a slightly more light-hearted read, so it might be a bit more of a change of pace as well from some of the other books that I'm reading. This, I think, is about a washed-up celebrity, and she is going to be kicked out from her apartment. She's just broken up with her boyfriend, and she has to try and come up with like 100,000 krona in a week or something, because this is set in Sweden. This is translated actually from Swedish, so it's apparently very funny, it's silly, and I really want to read about this slightly unhinged main character. And then the final book that I have on my TBR for the month of December is The Narrow Road Between Desires, which is the brand new Patrick Rothfuss book. So if you don't know, this is a slightly controversial book actually, but I'm personally very happy that I was sent this kindly from the publishers, so thank you so much. But also I'm just happy that Patrick Rothfuss is writing again. But if you don't know the backstory, Patrick Rothfuss wrote one of my favourite book series that is unfinished and will likely never be finished. It's the first book is called The Name of the Wind, and then the second one is The Wise Man's Fear, and we have been waiting many years for the third and final installment in that series, and lots of people think that it's just never going to happen. This actually was originally a short story about one of the characters that is in the main series, Bast, and it has been reworked into its own novella, and there's also, I think, illustrations in the book. I somehow always manage to open it up on the picture of the topless lady, but yeah, basically I really enjoyed this one. I read it as a short story, but I read it many years ago, so I can only vaguely really remember it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love Bast in the original series, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how this has been extended and adapted. And personally, I just think it's good news that he's writing again, because maybe eventually in another 10 years time we might finally get the third and final installment of the book series that I adore so much. And I also really want to actually reread that book series because it's just so good. But that is all of the books that I have on my TBR for this month. And I'm not sure if I'm going to manage to read these. I mean, I am already in the middle of a few of these. I'm going to finish this today, and I'm already currently reading these two. I mean, I'm not very far into them at all, but I'm liking them, and we'll see how I go. Let's see how I'll go. Like, it doesn't matter if I don't finish them. We just put them on the TBR for the next month. But it's a good stack, and I think it's a good mix. And I also think that it's going to be well fitted to the mood that I'm in over Christmas, which is usually longer fantasy stories and also some kind of more light-hearted ones too. So I'm actually going to end this video right now because all I want to do is go and lay on the sofa and crack open one of these books to read. So please let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. And also, please let me know something that is on your TBR that you are going to be reading this month, or if you have any special Christmas-themed books that you're going to be reading, I would love to know. Or you could also tell me what type of books make you feel the most Christmassy, because clearly for me it is long fantasy series, and that is something that I've always felt really Christmassy about. So please let me know what you're going to be reading, and I will talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've stayed this long, please remember to subscribe because it means the world to me. So I will talk to you again soon. Bye!